I'm grateful to you for inviting me to speak at your conference this year. I'm sorry that the difference in time zones means that it's not possible for me to take part in your conference live. Since I spoke at your conference last year, I'm pleased to say that I have been appointed an international patron of your association, which I regard as an honor. It is a particular pleasure to join the company of your other distinguished patrons, Chief Justice Diana Bryant and Justice Michael Kirby. My topic today, which I think fits with the theme of your conference, is the importance of cultural diversity in the judiciary. Let me begin with some statistics. In terms of the ethnic diversity of the judiciary in England and Wales, the latest statistics were published in July 2021. They showed that 10% of the judiciary are from ethnic minorities. This includes tribunal judges, as well as judges in the courts. The figures for tribunals are higher than for the courts. The figures vary at different levels of the judicial system. By way of example, 4 of the 100 or so High Court judges are from ethnic minorities, and 1 of the 38 Court of Appeal judges, that's me. The figures also vary as between different ethnic groups. For example, the figure for judges from Asian backgrounds is 5%. That figure has increased from 3% in 2014. The figure for Black judges is 1%, and regrettably, that figure has not changed since 2014. To put these figures into context, the working age population of England and Wales, according to the last census in 2011, included 14% who were from ethnic minorities. Although it is important to bear in mind that judges tend to be appointed later in life, usually after a career in legal practice. The figures in the legal professions are that 15% of barristers are from ethnic minorities, 18% of solicitors, and 14% of chartered legal executives. Why should any of this matter? The traditional view is that judges are neutral arbiters of people's rights and obligations. The law is colorblind. This is why the symbolic representation of justice, for example, in statues and paintings, often has a blindfold. Of course, all of that is true, and no one who is not faithful to their judicial oath would be worthy of being a judge. But experience suggests that life is not so simple. Judges are not robots. Justice does not involve using algorithms, or at least not yet. Judges bring the entirety of their experience of life, including what are sometimes called inarticulate premises, to the courtroom. And it is very difficult to shed that background at the door of the court. Indeed, in recent times, it has come to be appreciated that it would not always be desirable. The public want their judges to be in touch with the needs of the society they serve, although, of course, they also want them to be strictly impartial and independent in their temperament. We have also come to appreciate that race is not just about color or ethnic origins in a biological sense. Indeed, as a scientific matter, there is only one race, the human race. We have come to understand that race is a social construct. As such, it is as much to do with culture as it is to do with genes. And culture is very important to each of us. It forms part of our identity and shapes who we are. Take the basic fact of human existence, that we acquire a language early on in our lives. We even refer to it as our mother tongue. We do not choose which language we speak at that early stage in life, although we may learn other languages later. But experience has taught us that the language we speak is not simply a matter of words and sounds. Language in a broader sense is the entirety of the culture in which we are brought up. And that culture is shaped by our experiences of life. I once heard the great Australian judge, Michael Kirby, give an interview on British radio. In that interview, he made the point that law is not a value-free zone. I agree with him. The law, of course, has a technical side. It is very important that lawyers should be proficient in the technical rules and methods of legal analysis, but I do not think that is enough, certainly not for a judge who is a servant of the public. The relationship between law and values is a complicated one. It is one which I sought to explore in a lecture I gave in 2013 called Law as a System of Values. One of the things that interests me is how a society's values can change, sometimes very rapidly. The law often struggles to keep up, although it usually does so, and sometimes even leads the way, as it arguably did in relation to the law on racial equality in the UK. The first Race Relations Act was passed in 1965, at a time when there was overt racial discrimination in society by employers, landlords, and others. But legislation helped to change attitudes over time. Our law on this subject is now contained in the Equality Act 2010. The point that what judges do is not simply a technical exercise is not new. I have recently been rereading The Nature of the Judicial Process by the American judge Benjamin Cardozo, which was published exactly 100 years ago in 1921. I find that although some of it now sounds dated, it still contains insights on which it is worth reflecting today. Cardozo was well aware that judges, like other human beings, act not only on the basis of conscious reasoning, but also what he called subconscious forces. He said, "Every one of us has in truth an underlying philosophy of life, even those of us to whom the names and the notions of philosophy are unknown or anathema. There is which gives coherence and direction to thought and action. Judges cannot escape that current any more than other mortals. All their lives, forces which they do not recognize and cannot name have been tugging at them. Inherited instincts, traditional beliefs, acquired convictions. And the resultant is an outlook on life, a conception of social needs, a sense of the total push and pressure of the cosmos, which, when reasons are nicely balanced, must determine where choice shall fall. We may try to see things as objectively as we please. Nonetheless, we can never see them with any eyes except our own. Towards the end of the book, Cardozo returned to this topic of subconscious forces and said, "The spirit of the age, as it is revealed to each of us, is too often only the spirit of the group in which the accidents of birth or education or occupation or fellowship have given us a place. No effort or revolution of the mind will overthrow utterly and at all times the empire of these subconscious loyalties." I think that insight continues to have relevance today as debates continue about the importance of diversity in judicial decision-making. Not only diversity in the obvious sense, for example, race or gender, but cognitive diversity and diversity of experience. But to Cardozo, this did not mean that law descends into mere subjectivity or the preferences of individual judges, particularly because he had in mind the work of appellate courts, which fashion the law from time to time, and which have more than one judge sitting on a case. Cardozo took hope in the collective nature of the enterprise. He said, "The eccentricities of judges balance one another. One judge looks at problems from the point of view of history, another from that of philosophy, another from that of social utility. One is a formalist, another a latitudinarian. One is timorous of change, another dissatisfied with the present. Out of the attrition of diverse minds, there is beaten something which has a constancy and uniformity and average value greater than its component elements." I have found that to be true of my own role as a judge in the Court of Appeal of England and Wales. We usually sit as a panel of 3. I have often thought that the end product of our discussions after a hearing is more valuable, precisely because different judges with different legal and other backgrounds have contributed to the decision. In my view, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Cultural diversity is not something alien to the work of judges. It enriches the process of doing justice. Thank you very much for listening, and I wish you all well, both for the rest of your conference and in your future careers.